I'm going to tell you the story about my grandmother, Hazel Elizabeth Murphy, who was related, according to my uncle, to the prostitutes of Ireland. And so, but she always, even though her middle name was Elizabeth, she always went by Elizabeth because she hated the name Hazel. So her and my grandfather Poppy were really in love, but they didn't start off that way. Poppy was in World War II, in that he got a Dear John letter. Now, who knows what a Dear John letter is? All right, for those of you who don't know, it's a letter that a person's significant other sends, basically saying, hey, so I know you're in the war and you possibly get killed at any moment, but this relationship, it's not really working out for me, so I hope you don't get killed. Bye! And so he returned alive, thankfully, and so he wasn't married anymore. But that worked out perfectly because my grandmother wasn't married either. Let that be a lesson to you girls. Don't actually get an education, and don't just go to college to get your MRS. Your Mrs. Even though my grandmother got her DR MRS, Doctor, Mrs. They lived in Hartford, Connecticut, which, even though Connecticut may be a pretty liberal place, Hartford definitely wasn't. She was often called crazy because when books were being banned, she was just like, you cannot ban those books. I simply won't allow it. And she dyed her hair different colors, which is happened to me. So getting back to the story. So one day when my grandmother was going off of work, she noticed a garden. Now this garden belonged to the Institute of Living, which was basically a mental asylum. And so she went inside to look at the beautiful garden. And so the doors were locked, and she was like, oh crap, I have 5 minutes to get back to work. So she tried to get out, but the nurse stopped her and said, hello there. And she's like, I have to get out of here. It's like, I know that you do. No, seriously, I have to get out of here. I know that you do. So this went on for about 5 minutes, and then they realized she wasn't actually in the asylum. She let her out, and they went back to work. No, another thing that made her so unique, let's say, is that, and this is the reason, and she scarred my mother for life with this, and so when milk carts were still a thing, my grandmother noticed that somebody forgot to deliver her milk, and she could see the milk cart. She saw the milkman going, so she went out in just her nightgown, running after the milkman, saying, "Give me my milk!" Screaming at this. Now picture this: you're in a little village in Connecticut, and a woman just in her nightgown saying, "Bring me my milk!" And so she eventually caught up with the milkman, and he gave her milk. But for the longest time, when my mother would drive me to school, she wouldn't wear pajamas because that reminded her too much of her mother, but now she does it all the time. And the final story I'm going to tell you is the chocolate story. Now my Aunt Betsy worked at something that's kind of like a CVS. And so she got out at 9 o'clock, and then she would go out and hang out with her friends, like we do. And so what happened was 5 minutes every day, 5 minutes before she got out, phone ring, she would answer it, and voice would say, "Chocolate!" And my aunt knew that she had to get 1 pound of M&Ms without nuts, 1 pound of M&Ms without nuts, 1 pound of Snickers, 1 pound of Reese's peanut butter cups, and 1 pound of Hershey's chocolate. So she would rush home, bring it up to my mother, and yell, "Fat, the water rat!" And that's a story about my grandmother, and even though my grandmother was, I am proud to be named after her because my name is Olivia Elizabeth Victoria Blumdahl, and I am named after her, and I'm really proud to be because, like I said, she was a pretty progressive woman. She had dinner with black people and stuff, which really wasn't a lot because this was before the civil rights movement. So basically, and my parents and my mom got her house egged because she had tennis practice with a black person. Yeah, so that's my story.